You're listening to Sword and Pen.
Hey everyone, this is Rich with the Sword and Pen podcast from Military Veterans and Journalism. Today I'm joined by Babee Garcia, a news producer with CBS 19 News. Babee, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Rich. It's good to talk to you and to see your face. I feel like we've been communicating via email and Slack, and I haven't seen you. And I'm sorry, my husband is fixing the lighting right now. So hopefully everybody else can see me and it's a bit brighter.
That's all right. I have a few dogs in the house, so if they make noise, I think everybody gets a pass with this virtual environment that we're in. Also, Babee is a volunteer for MVJ, one of the first. Babee, what do you do for MVJ?
So I am the director of digital strategy and content. I've basically been a part of MVJ since we started back in 2019. I found out about this nonprofit through Russell Maduri. I actually reached out to him randomly on LinkedIn because I really wanted to connect with other veterans in journalism. I just got really curious and I wanted to expand my network a bit and connect with other journalists. But I was like, hey, I wonder if there's other veterans like myself who are interested in this career field too. And later on, he eventually told me that him and Zach were starting MVJ, and then I just kind of jumped on board. So I help with the communications aspect. So I help post events, um, opportunities, um, resources that we have going on here in MVJ on our social media platforms. I help organize and send out the newsletter at least once per month. And yeah, I basically, I join in on the board meetings, give my 2 cents as one of the senior leaders of MVJ. And I guess basically what I do is kind of like public affairs related. I kind of help maintain the image and reputation of MVJ. And so far, since 2019, we've been doing great and kind of building our audience digitally and making sure that we're conducting outreach and, just making sure that we're expanding our community a bit. And that's basically what I do.
Well, that sounds like a lot. Well, basically, if you ever read anything online on social media from MVJ, it's likely that Babee was the one who wrote it, unless it's about the fellowships, and that was me stealing the Twitter account to to write a bunch of encouraging messages to apply for the fellowships. Well, what did you do in the military? What branch did you serve in?
So I served in the Marine Corps on active duty. I was stationed in MCAS New River, North Carolina, in Mounts 29, and I was an aviation supply specialist. So kind of break it down for the civilians listening, it's basically a job that maintains, stores, and inspects aircraft material. So for the CH-53s, the Hueys, the aircrafts that we have that go out on deployment, I was in charge of taking a look at consumables. And these are smaller aircraft parts. And some of those prices, the value of those aircraft parts, they vary, from $5 bolts to $1,000 um, other $1,000 parts. So it ranges, and so that's what I did. And I was working at a warehouse, and eventually I went to an office called the Supply Management Division, and it was basically maintaining, storing, and inspecting aircraft material, but specifically for deployments. And they were all in these, I guess, like storage units outside. And so that was, I felt like a little bit bigger responsibility for me. And yeah, that's basically what I did in a nutshell. Had nothing to do with journalism, but I saw, kind of like traits, qualities within the Marine Corps that kind of translated to journalism.
Wait,
Uh,
are you trying to steal my next question?
Well, I'm trying to make it flow. I'm trying to make this conversation make sense.
No, well, I mean, thank you, because that's what I was that's exactly what I was going to ask you next. So that sounded a lot like journalism. What made you want to make the jump? But please continue.
Yeah, I mean, I knew in my mind I wanted to be a journalist when I was a little girl. I mean, it was part of the plan, but it wasn't, actually started until after I got out of the Marine Corps. So when I enlisted at 19, 20 years old, like I had that in the back of my mind, but I knew I wanted to serve in the military first to kind of get that structure, that foundation, that discipline, and then transition to being a journalist. So and that's what the Marine Corps gave me. It gave me, discipline, the grit, the commitment to just keep on working hard, and that's kind of what you need in journalism. You need to um, have that determination to, stick to deadlines, to commit to the story, and also attention to detail, like, just making sure that the facts are accurate and um, how you write really does impact and affect people, the way that they're consuming the news. It's our jobs as journalists to make sure that what we're writing makes sense and that we're sticking to integrity, another trait from the military. Um, and teamwork. I think that journalism is a team sport. You have so many people that overlook your work, and it's not just one person releasing a story and that's it. Like there's people proofreading it in a newsroom, making sure that before it gets sent out, it's good to go. All the information is accurate and things like that. So those are the things, the skills, the traits, the qualities that I noticed while serving as a Marine and kind of um, relating it to what it's like to be a journalist.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned teamwork, which is not something, surprisingly enough, that comes up very often when I ask people about the tiebacks between the military and journalism, but especially at a news station, which you work at, like a broadcast news station, but also in digital and print as well. But it's not just one person. It's not just the reporter sitting down there and doing it. You got the camera crew, you got researchers, you got fact checkers, you got producers, which is similar to what your job was in the Marine Corps, right? Because like an aircraft doesn't fly a mission by the pilot just getting in the seat and saying, all right, let's go. I mean, all of those things that happen behind the scenes make that aircraft go fly a successful mission. So, some of these skills are pretty widely applicable, even though you weren't sitting there writing copy. But we have conversations often, myself specifically, with employers who want to know what military veterans offer, and that's part of it. I mean, you come out with that foundation, like you said, you can meet deadlines, you can plug in, you have grit, you can do all those things. You may not know how to write a news story in a news fashion that well, but you can learn that. I mean, it's a lot harder to learn discipline than it is to learn how to write to the voice or AP style or whatever it is, right? So I think that's just worth touching on. But as far as like what you do right now at your news station, can you talk a little bit about that? Like, what has your journey been to get here? Because I think you did move for this job opportunity, right? So maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So before I got this job last year in August, I was working as a digital press assistant for Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill. She's a Navy helicopter pilot, and she serves within the district in 11th district in New Jersey. And I was working there for a year. I was, there was a point during the pandemic where I was like, I really miss doing journalism. And I loved working with the Congresswoman and the rest of my former colleagues at her office. But I missed, I miss doing stories. I miss connecting more with people. And so when this opportunity this job opportunity at CBS 19 News in Charlottesville, Virginia showed up on LinkedIn. I saw it and I applied, and I, I was just kind of ready to take that first step into really diving into my journalism career. And it all happened so quickly. So last summer, after I applied, I drove to Virginia for a 3-day interview. Just kind of toured the place with our former news manager, and um, I was hooked. I really liked the area, and I saw a lot of potential in what I can do to bring more stories and contribute to this newsroom here. And then I was hired by August 3rd of last year, and I've been working the 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift since. And I produce a 2-hour morning show called Good Morning Charlottesville. And um, I, basically help arrange and organize stories within the time limit. And I edit scripts. I also communicate with our reporter. If breaking news happens overnight, I make sure like we send our reporter out there and go live when our show airs. And yeah, and I communicate with the anchors, make sure that any changes, quick changes that I make within the rundown, they are aware. And yeah, those are basically my responsibilities. I think news producing requires a lot of leadership, critical thinking, judgment, and, just time management. It really does teach you a lot about, how much time you can stretch and what stories you need to get rid of so that you can fit within a certain time limit within
Right.
a 2-hour morning show. And also, I'm thinking about viewers, and these are families that are just waking up to go to work, to take their kids to school. And um a 2-hour morning show is like, I guess it's a little bit lighter hearted. It's not like too much of
Right.
hard news, excuse me. And hard, like, the evening newscasts, I feel, are, you're compacting, as many local stories as you can within a shorter time limit. And um your 5 o'clock, your 5:30, your 6 o'clock at night evening newscast, that's where you're getting the most viewership. That's where everybody is winding down, getting back home, and just, relaxing in the living room, trying to figure out, what happened throughout the day.
Mhm.
And, so that's kind of going back to what I was saying about my responsibilities. That's my responsibilities for producing a morning show, and the difference between producing a morning show versus evening shows.
Yeah, well, it was a great description, and I think just highlights some more crossovers between military and journalism. Like you said, producing requires leadership, and also things like task prioritization. Figuring out what you have space for and what you don't, and making tough decisions, because you could have two really good stories in front of you and be like, in that position where you have to be like, all right, well, look, only one can go, so this is it, and it could, and so having to make those difficult calls, and then also having to manage other people, I think, requires a lot from one person. And something else you brought up too, which I think is something I find interesting about the world of journalism, reporting, news, etc. It's kind of like the military in the way that, reporters, anchors, producers, like they move around the country to different affiliates like on a pretty frequent basis. It's pretty normal to not be from the place that you're reporting on, because you're trying to advance your career, and the position that you need to advance your career is not necessarily in your backyard. Which is kind of what you did. I mean, you moved from New Jersey to North Carolina, which is pretty different,
Virginia.
or Virginia. I'm sorry.
It's
I
okay. Charlottesville, Virginia.
Charlottesville, Virginia. Well, still pretty far. What have been some of the biggest, like, I don't know, culture shocks or differences since you've moved to that area from Jersey?
Oh, well, okay. New Jersey is more, it's right next to New York. You get the hustle and bustle drivers. So you definitely get a lot of more traffic, and it's, more industrial, more urban. And then Virginia, it's like you get all these scenic views, like,
Yeah.
and I love it so much over here. And you're drawn into, I look at the mountains, on my way back home from work, and I see hot air balloons, and those kind of things are new to me. And it's the people are definitely friendlier over here, believe
Yeah.
it or not, than New Jersey, because you do get the New Yorkers, you get that New Jersey, New York sass.
Yeah.
um and it's just, it's incredible, the differences between both of these states. And but I love both so much, but in different ways. Like
Right.
pizza and bagels, forget about it, I'm
Yeah.
going to New Jersey. Virginia, Bodo's is nice, but it's no New Jersey Taylor ham and cheese bagel.
Right.
But yeah,
Fair
so
enough.
the food, the people, the driving, drivers are slower here. And
Because they're trying to take in the scenic view. That's why.
yeah, I think so. I think that's it. But yeah, it's just more open space and land, and more of the nature scene here, and it's quite beautiful.
Well, that sounds like all positives and just benefits. So I'm in New York. It makes me want to get out now. But so what are your long-term goals in journalism? I mean, you've only been there maybe a little under a year, but I mean, I'm sure you're thinking long-term, like where would you want to end up in journalism?
Yeah. Um I actually was talking about this with a friend. She is a reporter, actually, around the Norfolk area, um, and also an anchor. And um, I told her that I kind of want to be a news director. And I just, even though I'm trying things out, like I'm trying to do like more on camera work, I'm trying to, do some reporting. I love it, but I feel like I thrive more behind the scenes. And so I like to work towards being a news director for a news station someday. And I know that, with the work that I'm doing now and moving up the ladder, eventually being an executive producer to assistant news director someday, I'll get there. But yeah, I see myself kind of growing more as a news leader, and I want to be able to, you know, take care of my reporters, my anchors, and um, those contributing behind the scenes as well. Boosting morale and also making sure that we do solid work. And I hope that I achieve that within the next 10, maybe 10 years. I give it.
That's a good plan. I mean, and it's funny as you're talking about, I want to take care of my people. I want to, and it's like you could have replaced that with, reporters, whatever else. You could replace that with Marines, like I want, or, it's just
Yeah.
like, I don't want to, it's kind of the point of the podcast, so I don't feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, but I mean, that's just another example right there of just plain leadership, and get those skills out of the box with a veteran, which you have obviously proven. So I think that's a great plan, and you're seem to be on the right way, on the right path based on what you're doing. What about with MVJ? What do you think? Just what do you think that MVJ offers people like you who want to advance their career? Obviously, you're a little unique, right? Because you are also very involved with MVJ from a producing standpoint, producing work for MVJ.
Mhm.
But you aren't always in that position. I mean, when, like you mentioned, you reached out to Russ when they first started or right before they did. So, like, what does it offer somebody like you? What does it offer somebody looking to get into journalism or pivot careers?
MVJ definitely offers me, a network of support. Russell, not only um is he, taking the reins by operating MVJ with Zach, um, but he's also my mentor, and he gives me advice. If I'm, struggling through something at work, I text him and he gives me some solid advice on what to do. And he's definitely done this a lot longer than I have, even though I've done, previous work in college, some award-winning work. um like all of that is kind of forgotten when you graduate, and it's like you have to start new. And um so yeah, like MVJ really does, you know it's a solid network where you can talk to someone, about, what do I do next. And you know um someone from MVJ can connect you to someone else who works in a newsroom, and vouch for you. I've had Zach and Russell write like letters of recommendation for me, and that helped me get this job, my first journalism job that I have now. And you know, it's so rewarding to have these group of male and female veterans who, you know, understand the struggle and the hustle it took, not only in the military, but to transition over to journalism. And MVJ just does a good job in recognizing that, in the value and the attributes that veterans can give to this field. And um, there's just so many opportunities like internships and fellowships that we have. And we have a lot of great funding coming in, and from the Knight Foundation and other partners, we're able to hold events and um, workshops, and just reach out virtually or in person to connect with other veterans in journalism. And um, that's basically what I have to say about MVJ. I mean, it's just so great to have representation, inclusivity, and to be noticed, so that newsroom leaders know what veterans are capable of and what they can contribute to journalism.
For sure. I think there's a lot there, but for sure, I mean, it's obvious that for most of us here, it's a non-linear path. You don't just like, we don't fit check every single box up the ladder to, staff writer or producer or whatever it is. So having an outlet or an organization like MVJ is huge, because like you have that network there. If somebody can't help you, they probably know somebody that can, and people are on board with this cause, which I think is a really noble one. And just what can you offer people who are thinking about volunteering with MVJ? I mean, what rewarding things have you worked on as a volunteer with MVJ?
Hmm. To be honest, I can't pinpoint one specific thing, but I can tell you that, you got to think journalism is public service. Military is kind of like volunteer type of service, um, obligation to, to serve your country. So, um, servicing people is what veterans, kind of have instilled in them, right? And um, if you have the military service, you have the journalism service, you're connecting with communities, then I think that, volunteering for MVJ is the next best step. You have all these years of, servicing people, and, why not? Why not help this community grow, and um, help veterans get to where they need to be in journalism, maintain success, and just help with their career growth and development. I mean, you're really impacting veterans' lives, and you're helping them um, really gain more experience, and you're sharing their success stories. By volunteering, you're just know that you're making a difference in an underrepresented population in journalism that needs to be put on the map and needs to get noticed more. So, you know, as a volunteer, you're helping to advocate and to make sure that veterans get placed in newsrooms. And there's no model, like there's no money in volunteering. It's just the goodness of your heart and making a difference in a veteran's life.
Yeah. Well, I think that's pretty comparable to money in your pocket. So yeah, well, thank you for explaining that, Babee, and thank you for speaking with me. I hit most of the points that I wanted to talk about, but the floor is yours if you'd like to add anything that I may have missed.
I think you asked me, and I'm not sure if I answered it fully, but what are my goals for MVJ? And one of them would be, I want to provide more opportunities and connect more with women veterans who are interested in journalism and veterans of color. And I just feel like, we're in a society now where we're we're getting we're increasing diversity a bit more. And, I want these voices, to kind of contribute to newsrooms too. I mean, veterans in journalism, we're already a specific community as it is, but women veterans in journalism and veterans of color interested in journalism, I feel like these minority veterans can give us newsrooms like bigger perspectives in how they cover stories and of underserved communities, covering the Hispanic, the Black and Brown communities, things like that. So that's one of my biggest goals within my position at MVJ, and I hope that my efforts kind of get there in making sure that we, welcome them to join us and support them with their goals as much as possible.
For sure. Well, noble cause on top of an already noble cause. So awesome. Well, thank you for your time, Babee. Babee Garcia, MVJ, as well as CBS 19. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.